No more major signings at Liverpool. Trent Alexander-Arnold's new deal to be the main priority this summer, and Virgil Van Dijk wants to stay at Liverpool. Been a bit of a lively day, in all honesty, at the Reds today. Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to another video. 3 stories have come out in the past 24 hours about Liverpool, and I highly doubt they're going to majorly excite the fan base, but here we are. We have got 3 different stories all about Liverpool. We've got news on Liverpool's transfer business and transfer activity. We've got news on Trent Alexander-Arnold. And we've got news on Virgil Van Dijk as well. We're going to get into all of that. We're going to be talking about these 3 different stories in regards to Liverpool today. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated. Get involved in the comment section as well. Let me know what you guys think and feel on these stories down below. Use and abuse that comment section, people. Talk to me on this. Would love to hear your thoughts and feelings on all things Liverpool, and especially these 3 stories we're going to be talking about. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. Let's talk Liverpool, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Virgil van Dijk, and everything else in between. So, you'll know a few days ago I did a video on Liverpool. I actually did a couple of videos on Liverpool last week, talking about the big transfer side of things, talking about various other things to do with the Reds as well. And one of the stories was obviously about how quiet and inactive our transfer window has been. Well, according to a certain Ian Doyle, he's come out and said in the past 24 hours that Liverpool are not expected to make any major signings over the next fortnight. And as you can probably hear, as you can probably imagine, as you can probably have read and, seen and heard, that's probably been music to the ears of a large portion of Liverpool fans. And of course, being sarcastic, that is going to obviously add more fuel to the fire of the FSG outers, the Liverpool haters, whatever you want to call them. That's obviously not going to go down too well. And I'll reiterate my stance on this. I am FSG out. I believe that they simply do not push the boat out enough for us. They simply do not pull their finger out enough for us. They can obviously go that extra mile, but yet they choose not to. And I think that if what Ian Doyle is saying is to be believed, this is another opportunity and another example of exactly that. FSG having a good opportunity to go in hard on this transfer window, and yet they've fallen short, if this is to be believed. We look at this Liverpool squad and we see holes. We see areas that need beefing up. We see areas that need upgrading. We see areas that can be improved upon. And yet you're telling me that we are going to wait it out for another 2 weeks at the very least. Now, of course, the transfer window doesn't end until the end of August. In 2 weeks' time, teams will be preparing for the kickoff of a brand new season. And I firmly believe that if your team isn't fully ready by that point, if you're bringing in players after that point, between the kicking off of a new season and the end of the transfer window, you're pretty much saying to everyone, we made a mistake, we need to panic buy a little bit. I don't care if you've had them scouted for God knows how long. Don't care if they've been on your radar for months or years. I don't care if you have a short list of players that you've had since the beginning of the summer. The fact remains, why did you not just go and get them at the beginning of the summer, bed them in, use pre-season to your full advantage to obviously improve their match fitness and to obviously get them up to speed, get them to gel in with their new teammates and their new surroundings, and then take it from there. Instead, you decided to wait. You decided to wait until the season kicked off, and now you're saying, we might have made a mistake, we need to go back into the transfer window. That, to me, is a mistake. And unlike Liverpool, because previously under Michael Edwards, when he was a sporting director, we normally got our business done, pretty much done and dusted early. Yes, there were 1 or 2 signings that we made on deadline day or during that period of time that I mentioned between the start of the season and the end of the transfer window, but often that was just one player that kind of just was added to the squad. Not like a first teamer, more of a squad player that was brought in at those times. And some worked, some didn't, as transfers tend to do. But what makes it even more frustrating as a Liverpool fan is seeing how inactive we've been. It's been very frustrating seeing how we basically sat on our hands, pretty much praying and hoping for something to fall into our laps, which so far has not done it. And then you look across at Manchester United, who are making some big waves in this transfer window. And although you may not necessarily agree with the signings that United are making, they are acting like a big club again, which is saying a lot for a team that's been in the mud for over the past 10 years. They're acting like a big club. They're competing with the likes of Real Madrid and other big teams from across Europe for certain players. They've challenged AC Milan for that Joshua Zirkzee. They're going in for certain players from PSG and certain young starlets of the future like Xavi Simons. The only story we've really been linked with is Lenny Yoro, which of course we instantly turned down once we realised that Real Madrid was the only team he was going to ever go to. And then of course, Real Madrid didn't even go in for him properly. So he ended up going to Manchester United anyway, where if we'd have just thrown our hat into the ring and just gone, you know what, if he rejects us, he rejects us, we could have been battling it out in a tug-of-war of sorts with Manchester United. Again, it's just frustrating to see rivals like that act like the way that we should be doing, in all honesty. And again, FSG, it's a point against them for not, in my opinion, doing enough, for not pushing the boat out. I'm not going to go completely insane on it. I'm not going to go completely crazy on it because the transfer window isn't open, it isn't closed yet. We obviously know that these things can suddenly burst into action. Whilst I am saying that Ian Doyle has said all of this, it's not necessarily the golden truth. It's not necessarily gospel, I guess you could say, because, like I say, these things can happen very quickly. These things can change, and journalists have been wrong before. And as we know with Liverpool's transfer business in previous years, they often work in the shadows. They often work very much behind the scenes, and they often they often spring a few surprises that not even the top tier journalists know about. So, you know, maybe it is a bit of hope, but obviously the hope is that we are doing that, and maybe we've dropped a few crumbs here and there for journalists to feed upon and regurgitate. Whilst they can then go, you know what, we've kept them busy, now we can get on with our own thing and do it in peace and quiet, and then we'll only drop the news when we have something to drop. Usually that means that a deal is extremely close, a deal is done, or something of that nature. That's how Michael Edwards used to operate when, of course, he was the sporting director of Liverpool years ago. He's obviously now back at the helm at Liverpool. He's obviously in a much higher position. But Richard Hughes, another highly rated, highly thought of figure in that kind of network, is obviously in his old position. So maybe he's just taking a leaf out of his book. But of course, we won't know until something does drop, which, according to Ian Doyle, may not happen for at least the next couple of weeks. So that is a bit concerning. And like I say, I could go crazy right now, but I'm going to wait and bide my time until the end of the transfer window. I don't want to speak too soon on this and then get left with egg on my face if, of course, Liverpool do go out and pull off a madness. Not that that hope is getting any bigger. In fact, it is dwindling with each passing day. But stranger things have happened. In the meantime, we knew what was going to come next. If you could maybe guess at what was going to come next, you've obviously been down this route before. New contracts. And again, it's not going to please the fan base, or a large portion of the fan base. Trent Alexander-Arnold, a player that we should have had a contract tied down to for the long-term future months/years ago. This guy should not have been allowed to run down his contract to the final year. It's a joke what has happened. It's ridiculous. I said that last week in one of the two videos that I did, at least, that running down his contract is an unforgivable and horrible mistake, and it was a massive gamble on his future. it could have just put to rest completely the speculation surrounding him and Real Madrid. But it didn't. I think Liverpool may have got too reliant on the fact that he's a Scouser, the fact that he's born and bred in Liverpool, been with the club since he was, 8 years old, something like that. I think Liverpool rested on them kind of laurels a little bit too much. And then Real Madrid came sniffing around. The interest was snowballing. It was gathering momentum. And then we started to a little bit panic. And that's why the talk of him being our priority to get a new contract, as reported by James Pearce, has now taken centre stage. James Pearce has gone on to say that Trent Alexander-Arnold's contract extension is Liverpool's main priority this summer. So forget transfers. This is the main priority. A guy we should have had tied down weeks, months, years ago. This has now been bumped up to our main priority. Again, shocking on FSG's part and the people that they put in place to obviously oversee this kind of operation at the club over the past few years. I think he will sign, so I don't think we need to overly panic. But at the same time, it's Real Madrid. The biggest global phenomenon that we have within the sport that we love of football. I'm not shocked, I'm not surprised that Trent may or may not have had his head turned by them, if of course you believe the reports that are being put out about him. I'm not shocked, I'm not surprised, I'm not angry with Trent, because a lot of players, near enough every player probably would be flattered by the interest of Real Madrid holding in them. So I'm not angry or frustrated with Trent, but I'm angry and frustrated with the club for allowing this contract to run down of the best right back currently in the game. It's just baffling to me. It genuinely is baffling to me that was allowed to happen. Luckily, it does seem we are getting that priority in order. Fingers crossed we can strike a deal. I'm pretty confident that we will, but of course remains to be seen. And then we'll treat it like a new signing. That will be annoying as well. The club will treat it like a new signing, and it's not. And I know, again, it's not necessarily all about the players that you buy. Sometimes it is about the players that you manage to keep. It shows you're a big club. Teams like Arsenal and Manchester City do it all the time. Real Madrid, of course. The big clubs keep their best players. And this will be an example of that if Liverpool are to tie up this deal for the long-term future. Reports are suggesting anywhere between 2028 and 2029 is where we're looking at striking a deal with in terms of contract duration. But at the same time, this should have been done months ago, weeks ago, years ago, whatever you want to call it. And it's not going to be exactly the main news that we were hoping for as Liverpool fans and as fans of the transfer window. It could have been better, and this situation certainly could have been dealt with better. And leading on to another situation, Virgil Van Dijk. Graham Bailey reports that Virgil van Dijk has let Liverpool know that he wants to sign a new contract with the club. His current contract expires in 2025. Now, I have a bit of a different attitude towards Van Dijk because Van Dijk is a bit older than Trent, so I can understand why Liverpool may have been a bit more hesitant, shall we say, in offering Van Dijk a new contract. Now again, just because Van Dijk wants to stay doesn't mean that that's necessarily what the club want. Maybe they are far apart on this, or maybe they are on the same page and it's all about negotiating a new deal. Either way, if Liverpool do want this, it's going to be very interesting to see how they do negotiate a deal with Van Dijk. He's not exactly getting any younger. He's more towards the end of his career than he is at the beginning. And of course, as we know, the FSG sort of model would dictate that wage structure-wise, having a player that old at the club that's not going to improve for the foreseeable future may not exactly be what they want on their wage bill. I think he will sign. I think he will sign a contract extension, whether it be another year or two. I can see that happening. I'm not necessarily sure about the wages. I'm not necessarily sure if like a Saudi team or something will come sniffing around. If obviously they get wind that Van Dijk may reject Liverpool because of the wages. He may say he wants to stay, but if the wages aren't there to set him up for the end and twilight of his career, he may not stick around. He may perform a U-turn. So again, there are little bits and pieces here that obviously could turn against the Reds on this particular matter. Van Dijk staying. Again, like I say, with him not getting any younger as well, there could be the game time talk, the reduced game time to kind of bleed others in. Let's say it's going to be Gomez and Konate, just for argument's sake, younger guys. Gomez is at least 28 or something. Be better for him to play in his more natural position rather than be played left back for one game, right back for another, left back again. CDM for a few times last season. But you get my point. Maybe game time will also be a factor in the negotiating of Liverpool. Maybe it will be a factor for Virgil van Dijk as well, as to whether or not he actually does sign on the dotted line or not. There are interesting factors to all of these stories, but they all sort of correspond and they all link. No new signings for the next 2 weeks, allegedly reported. Followed by, we're going to be signing new contracts. Contracts FC strikes again. I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. I'm not trying to be angry or down for the sake of being down. But the fact of the matter is I think we have a good opportunity here to maybe go for certain players, maybe try and flex our muscles a little bit. We are seemingly one of the very few teams, especially in the Premier League, that can maybe go a bit more OTT in this transfer window and it be okay because of how well we've been ran as a club these past several years. Well, some would say not so well ran, depending on how ambitious you want to be, but in terms of obviously FFP and PSR and all that stuff, that's obviously come very much into fashion these past couple of years or so. We are very much flying well and truly below the sun on that one. So maybe we could push the boat out a little bit more. But that's just me. That's just my kind of thoughts on that. And obviously that may lead into more frustration brewing as the transfer window goes on and maybe there aren't going to be any more signings. But like I say, it all seems to go hand in hand. It was seemingly pretty obvious that contracts were going to be the next thing on the agenda at Liverpool after it's claimed there won't be any more incomings. Whether you believe that or not remains to be seen over the coming days, coming weeks. Like we say, the only thing that I'm clinging hope to is that Liverpool do work in the shadows. Liverpool do work quietly on this kind of thing. Wouldn't surprise me if something did spark at any point, but at the same time, I'm not exactly as optimistic as what I was at this point last week. So, yeah, there you have it. Those are kind of my thoughts on the three talking points of Liverpool from the past 24 hours or so. Liverpool not signing new players, Trent Alexander-Arnold's new deal to be the main priority this summer, and Virgil van Dijk wanting to stay at the club. So, let me know what you guys think and feel about these kinds of subjects. Let me know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it. That'll make for great interest in reading, I'm sure, down below. Please use and abuse that comment section. People would love to hear from you all on these particular stories. So, yeah, that'd be great to hear from you all. Would be great to know what you guys are thinking on any or all of these stories to do with Liverpool Football Club. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way up if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you are new, want to see more content like this. Both things are always probably greatly appreciated. And as always, thanks for so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video. And I'll see you speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Speak to you again very, very soon.